Hello everyone, welcome you all to the video lecture series of Art and Culture. Today we are going to see the chapter 4 of Fine Arts NCERT, Post-Mauryan Trends in Indian Art and Architecture. So let's get started. See, in previous chapter we saw the art and architecture of Mauryan period. So the most important feature of Mauryan art and architecture was pillars and stupa. But later on, the expertise in sculpture making and rock cut cave also enhanced. So this period is characterized by its sculptures and rock cut caves. So this period is around 2nd century BC. At this time, in the political map of India, various new rulers emerged. In north and central part, Shunga, Kanvas, Kusanas and Guptas emerged. And in south and western area, Satavahanas, Ikshvaku, Abhiraz, Vakatakas, etc. emerged. Even in religious front, the rise of Brahmanical sect also seen in this period, like the sects like Vaishnavas, Saivas, etc. The important sculptural sites where the evidence of sculptures found were the sites of Vidisa, Bharhat, Bodh Gaya, Jagaypeta, Mathura, Khandagiri, Udaygiri, Odisha, etc. One of the important sculptural evidence were found in Bharhat. So what are the features of Bharhat sculptures? These sculptures are tall like images of Yaksha and Yakshini in Mauryan period. You can see the image given here. It is an image of Yakshini from Bharhat. Images stick to the picture plane. You see in this image, the sculpture is not sculptures is made on the plane of the picture, and the relief panel depicts different narratives. Illustration of three-dimensionality is also shown in the sculptures. Clarity in narrative is enhanced by selecting main events. Pictures other than main characters also shown in the panel. So in the panel of the sculpture, one main character is there, and these subsidiary characters are shown surrounding the main image. More than one event clubbed in a single panel. So in a single panel, it is seen that different events are clubbed together depending upon its geographical area. The availability of space is utilized to maximum. We get this knowledge from the folded hands and awkward position of legs in the sculptures. In initial phases, the artist used the small areas with these awkward bends in the body, but in later period of time, the natural projection of hand is seen. Narrative reliefs of Bharhat uh, gives an example of pictorial language to communicate stories. The example of these kind of narratives are: number one, Queen Maya Devi's dream of descending elephant, and the second example is Ruru Jataka, where Bodhisattva deer rescuing a man on his back is shown. So the first image is of Ruru Jataka, where you can see the deer. Uh, the story of this Jataka is like a deer, Bodhisattva deer, rescues a man and promises him, asks him that he should not tell about this incident to anyone. But when the king asks the man, uh, and in the greed of the return price from the king, the person discloses about the deer. So this entire story is shown in the first image. It is called Ruru Jataka. The another second image is the Jataka of Queen Maya's dream, where Queen Maya is shown in lying posture, and an elephant is showing descending to her womb. So these kind of stories, Jataka stories, were engraved in Bharhat sculptures. The next sculptural evidences are found from Sanchi Stupa. In previous chapter, we have seen the structure of stupa, which we can see in the image here. That the stupa is a mound which is called anda, and a medhi, which is a pradakshina path, circumambulatory passage. In uh, in this stupa, there are two circumambulatory passages, which is a unique feature. We can see the boundary, which is called as Vedika, and gates, four gates, which is called Torana. At the top, we can see Harmika and the Chhatra. The entire area of Vedika and Torana gave immense space for the artisans to create sculptures, decorative sculptures. So in Sanchi Stupa, we get to see the sculptural narratives engraved on the boundaries and toranas. So the next phase of sculptural development was seen in Sanchi Stupa, Mathura and Vengi in Andhra Pradesh. The carving techniques were more advanced than the Bharhat images. The narratives get more elaborated. Again, the example of narratives here are Queen's Dream, Siege of Kusinara, Buddha's visit to Kapilvastu, visit of Asoka to Ramgram Stupa, etc. When we talk about the sculptural development in this period, there are three forms of school developed at this time. One is Gandhara school, another is Mathura school, and Amravati school. Amravati school is in Vengi area of Andhra Pradesh. So, in each of these schools, the sculptures related to Buddha's life were created. But when we study these sculptures, we get to see the different small differences in the way they portrayed Buddha. So it is important for us to understand the basic differences of these three schools. So let us see it one by one. First one is influence. So the Gandhara school of sculpture were influenced by Greek or Hellenistic art. Mathura and Amravati were indigenous. They were not influenced from outside. Second, material used. For Gandhara, bluish grey sandstone were used, and later on, mud and stucco also used to create these sculptures. You can see the second image here, which shows the Buddha from Gandhara, and the color is bluish grey. In Mathura, red sandstone were used. In Amravati, white marble were used. You can see the seated Buddha image of Sarnath, which is an example of Mathura school of sculpture. Religious influence. In Gandhara school of sculptures, uh, it is Buddhist influence. Mathura, all three religion, Buddhism, Hinduism and Jainism have influence, and in Amravati, only Buddhist influence is seen. Patronage, who patronized this sculptural development? For Gandhara, it is Kusana, Mathura also Kusana, and Amravati, Satavahana. Area of development, Gandhara area is in the northwest area, which is also known as Kandhar. Mathura is in Yamuna Valley in central and North India, and Amravati is in Krishna Godavari Valley. So what are the features, small differences in these three sculptures? So let us see about Gandhara. So Gandhara Buddha was shown in spiritual state with wavy hair. He wears less ornaments, sits in a yogi's position, half closed meditative eyes, and protuberance shown on the forehead, which signifies omniscience. Similarly, the Mathura Buddha is shown in delighted mode with a smiling face. The body is shown as masculine. Clothing are tight, which shows the carvings on the body. Buddha is seated in Padmasana with different hand mudras. Even in Mathura school of sculpture, protuberance is shown on the forehead of Buddha, which signifies omniscience. But in Amravati art, uh, focus is given on narrative sculptures, narrative art, rather than individual portrayal of Buddha. Sculptures are part of a story. They form sculptures to tell a story to their audience. Less focus is given on individual imagery. These Jataka stories are stories and events from the Buddha's life, both human form and animal form. So these are the basic differences in different schools of sculptures which developed in later Mauryan period. So do we have early temples at this time? Yes, as we have seen that with Buddhism and Jainism, Brahmanism and different sects like Saivas and Vaishnavas started to develop. We saw construction of Brahminical temples and images of gods in those temples. The myths of Purana became part of the narrative representation. There are three kinds of shrines built at that period of time. One is Sandhara. Sandhara is a shrine with Pradakshina Path, that means circumambulatory path around the sanctum sanctorum. Second is Nirandhara. Nirandhara is without Pradakshina Patha. And third is Sarvatobhadra. Sarvatobhadra shrine can be accessed from all sides. Example of these early temples were Devghar temple in UP, Nachna Kuthara temple in MP, and Udaygiri temple. You can see the image, simple image of Shiva temple from Nachna Kuthara, Madhya Pradesh. This is built in 5th century CE. Now let us move on to see the Buddhist monuments of South India. So in Vengi in Andhra Pradesh, many stupa sites were found like Jagaypeta, Amravati, Bhattiporlu, Nagarjun Konda, etc. They have some unique features as different from the North Indian stupas. Let us see the features. Number one, Amravati Stupa. The Pradakshina Path enclosed within Vedika on which many narrative sculptures are depicted. So the Pradakshina Path around the Amravati Stupa were um, covered by Vedika, and the walls of Vedika were decorated with different sculpture. Even on the Domical Stupa, we get to see the sculptural slabs on that. The Jataka story were depicted on those sculptural images. The construction of Amravati Stupa started around 3rd century BC, but it flourished and developed well in 1st or 2nd century CE. Sculpture characterized by intense emotion. Figures show a lot of movement, and bodies shown with three bends. This posture is called Tribhanga posture. The sculptural composition more complex than Sachi. Idea of creating 3D space devised in this time. So you can see since the sculptural development was the sole purpose was to tell a story. Hence the complex uh, complexity increased because there were many characters in a story, and each and every character has to be shown in the same panel to tell a story correctly. Similar, that's why they the panel art became more complex as compared to Sachi sculptures, where focus was given on individual imagery rather than storytelling. The second example of South Indian Buddhist art is Nagarjun Konda and Goli. Animated movement in figures get reduced. Relatively low relief volume than Amravati, but artists managed to create protruding images to create 3D effects. See this panel from Nagarjun Konda. The relief space is really small, but the artist is somehow trying to create a 3D image by protruding sculptures. This shows the artistic ability of Nagarjun Konda artisans. In Nagarjun Konda also independent Buddha image was found, which is not common in Amravati school of sculptures. Few important sites of Nagarjun Konda is Guntapalle, where rock cut site is found, Anakapalle, where rock cut stupa is found, and Sannati, Karnataka. It is the largest stupa site found till date. Temple 18, Sachi apsidal Chaitya structure, simple shrine temple having front pillars and a hall at the back. See this image in front of Sachi Stupa. This one pillared um, apsidal Chaitya structure was found, which is commonly called as Temple 18. Other Buddhist image of Bodhisattva like Avalokiteswar, Padmpani, Vajrapani, Amitabha, and Maitreya Buddha started getting sculpted at this period of time. See, these terms of bodhisattvas are important. As we saw in 2018, UPSC asked about Maitreya, and most of the people got confused from where UPSC is asking these kind of question. It is clearly given in NCERT. We just need to pick these words and just Google them about what that word means. So you will see in this chapter Maitreya Bodhisattva name is used twice. So UPSC is framing questions in this manner. Anyway, moving forward, let us see the cave tradition in Western India. In 2nd century BC, many Buddhist caves were found. The concentration of these caves are majorly in Western and Central India. The, there are two types of architecture in Buddhist cave tradition. One is Chaitya, another is Vihara. Chaitya is place of worship and Vihara is place of residence. These are the kind of dormitories for monks. They used to live in Vihara, and Chaitya is a large hall where at one end a small stupa is there, and this hall is used for worshipping. So there are three architectural types of Chaitya formation. Number one, apsidal vault roof Chaitya halls. Example is Ajanta, Pitalkhora, Bhaja. Second is apsidal vault roof pillarless hall. Example is Thana, Nadsur. And third is flat roofed quadrangular hall with circular chamber at back. Example is Kondi Vite. See in this in the image you can see the roof is apsidal. This roof structure is called apsidal vault roof. It is not flat, it is with a curvature. In 1st century BCE, some changes were made to the standard plan of apsidal vault. Halls became rectangular. Example is Ajanta cave number 9. And another example of flat roof or rectangular halls are Bedsa, Nasik, Karla, Kanheri. Karla is an example of biggest rock cut Chaitya hall excavated. See, the third image is Chaitya hall of Karla. It is the biggest Chaitya hall found till date. Now let us see about viharas. Vihara is nothing but a combination of veranda, a hall and cells around the hall where monks used to live. Important vihara caves are Ajanta cave number 12, Bedsa cave number 11, Nasik cave number 3, 10 and 17. The Nasik cave shows a decorative design at the entrance gate, also known as Ghata base and Ghata capital. Now let us see about the most important caves of this period, Ajanta. Ajanta is situated in Aurangabad district of Maharashtra. Look at this first image of Ajanta caves. These are the small, you can see the small entries. These are the entrance of caves, and these caves were given numbers. Each and every cave has different kind of images, paintings or sculptures. So we will see few of them in detail. So there are 29 caves in Ajanta, 4 Chaitya caves and rest Vihara. In early phase, during 1st and 2nd century BC, cave number 9 and 10 were made. These are also Chaitya caves. And in later phase, during 5th century CE, cave number 19 and 26 were built. These are also Chaitya caves. So 4 Chaitya caves were made in 2 phases. Early phase 9 and 10 and later phase 19 and 26. Only surviving example of painting of 1st century BCE is found in Ajanta. So let us see the feature of cave 19 and 26. These are Chaitya caves elaborately carved. The entrance is decorated with images of Buddha and Bodhisattva. The roof is of apsidal vault variety. It is not flat. The cave 26 is very big and the biggest image is Mahapari Nirvana image. So who were the patrons? The patrons, few of the patrons were number one, Varahadev. Varahadev was Prime Minister of Vakataka King Harisen. He patronized cave number 16. Similarly, Upendra Gupta patronized cave number 17 and 20. He was the local king and feudatory of Vakataka King Harisen. Cave 26, which is the largest one, is patronized by Buddha Bhadra, and cave number 4 was patronized by Mathura Das. In all these caves, the typological variations are seen. The paintings and the sculptures found in these caves were not exactly similar in nature. There were variations. So, what all parameters contributed to these typological variations? The outward projection. Lines are clearly defined. In some images, lines are clearly defined. In some images, it is not. Body color merges with outer line to give effect of a volume. Figures are heavy like sculptures. By seeing the paintings of Ajanta caves, it can be seen, it can be guessed that artists drew the images similar to the sculptures which were developing at that period of time. That is why they were seeing the big sculptures and drawing exactly the same image. Hence, the size of image in paintings were also large. So, in early phase, that is the cave number 9 and 10 during 1st century BC, figures were broad and with heavy proportion. They were arranged in a linear way. The considerable naturalism can be seen. The images were very much naturalistic and over stylization were avoided at that period of time. The events were grouped together according to the geographical location. Say the images of um, forest or the images of palace. These two were shown in different panels because their geographical locations were different. So all the images of forest were clubbed together in a panel which shows a particular theme. The figures of this time looks like Sanchi sculptures, as we discussed that the artisans were seeing the sculptures and then drawing it on the walls. Hence, it shows the simultaneous growth of lithic and paintings tradition. The frontal knot on the headgear also shows similarity with sculptures. So, the development of mural paintings in Ajanta was not an independent phenomena. Parallelly, when the sculptural development were happening. We get the evidence from the stupa and or the decorative Jataka stories. At the same time, those Jataka stories and the images or sculptures were made on the mural wall, or mural in the form of mural painting on the walls. So these both were developing simultaneously, not in silos. Next phase of development were seen in cave number 16, 17 and 1 and 2. Again, these images shows typological variation and various skin colors were used like brown, yellow, greenish. You can see in the first image, this is Apsara cave number 17. So in this image you can see the different skin colors. That means it shows the multicolor population at that point of time, that period of time. Movements in figures are very rhythmic, which shows the narrative correctly. Brown thick dark lines used as contours. Cave 1 and 2, the images were orderly, naturalistic and well integrated with sculptures of cave. So in a particular cave, we not just only see the evidence of paintings, but also the evidence of sculptures. So in cave number 1 and 2, these sculptures and the paintings were integrated together to show a common theme. A common feature of cave 1 and 2 images are half closed and elongated eyes. What were the themes there? The general themes are Jataka stories and Avadanas. Jataka means the life events of Buddha. Avadana means correlating past life virtuous deeds to subsequent lives. Let us see a few examples of these Jatakas and Avadanas, the important ones. Simhala Avadana, Mahajanaka Jataka, Vidhur Pandita Jataka, and Chadant Jataka. The first three covers the entire wall of the cave. These are huge Jataka stories depicted on a single wall, each on a single wall, and the story is too vast that it covers the entire wall of the cave. The important feature of Chadanta Jataka was the Bodhisattva Chadanta, who was an elephant, shown removing his own tusk and giving to the hunter. These small stories are depicted in these pictures. The paintings in cave number 1, the important paintings are Padmapani and the Vajrapani. These are bodhisattvas standing beside the image of Buddha. So in cave 1, elaborate image and huge image of Padmapani and Vajrapani is shown separately. Paintings in cave number 2 shows affiliation with Vengi sculptures, that is from Amravati. As we have seen that the images are similar to the sculptures from Sanchi, in cave number 2 particularly, the affiliation is shown from the Amravati sculptures. As the Amravati sculptures are also Jataka narratives, in cave number 2 we see Jataka narratives similar to Amravati sculptures. Now the another important cave is Ellora. Ellora is around 100 kilometers away from Ajanta. It has 32 Buddhist, Brahminical and Jain caves. It is a unique art historic site because the monastery is associated with all three religions and the timeline varies from 5th century CE to 11th century CE. So it covers a long range of historical timeline. So in this long period, different political leaders came, different religion flourished. So the Ellora cave gives the footprint of each and every religion as well as political influence at that period of time. So broadly, we can divide the Ellora caves into three categories: Buddhist caves, Jaina caves, and Brahminical caves. You can see the images of Ellora caves. The number one is Kailas temple, the huge image sculpture of elephant made with a single rock. Second is seated Buddha in a Chaitya hall, cave number 10, Ellora. So if we see Buddhist caves, there are 12 Buddhist caves in number. Images belong to Vajrayana Buddhism like Tara, Akshubhaya, Mahamauri, Avalokiteswara, Maitreya, etc. The caves are in Ellora have a unique feature of triple story caves. In Ajanta, we see single story or double story caves, but in Ellora, triple story caves evidence are also found. Shrine Buddha image are big, generally guarded by images of Padmapani and Vajrapani. As we already saw that the main image of Buddha was guarded by the Bodhisattvas like Padmapani and Vajrapani and shown in a same panel. The second category is Jaina caves. Jain caves were it belongs to around 9th century CE onwards. The decorative forms are heavily protruded in these caves. These caves are more ornate than Buddhist caves. third is Brahminical caves. In Ellora, cave number 13 to 28 belong to Brahminical caves. Cave number 14 is only double story cave here. It have images of Shiva and Vishnu according to Puranic narratives. The common Shaivite themes in Brahminical caves are Andhakasur Vadha, Ravan shaking Mount Kailasa, Kalyan Sudhara. The Vaishnavite theme is generally common avatars of Vishnu. It shows narrative stories from Purana, which is related to the different incarnation of Vishnu. Cave number 16 is called Kailasalini. It is a rock cut temple carved out of single rock. The another set of caves are Elephanta caves. Elephanta caves are situated near Mumbai. Originally, these were Buddhist caves, but later dominated by Saivite faith. These caves are contemporary with Ellora. The sculptures show slenderness in body with stark light and dark effects. The other important caves are Bagh in Madhya Pradesh, Rock Cut Cave in Badami, and Aiholi in Karnataka. These were under patronage of Chalukya rulers. Again, Vijayawada caves in Andhra Pradesh and Mahabalipuram caves, rock cut in caves in Tamil Nadu. These were patronized by Pallavas. See the image of entrance of Elephanta cave. Now let us see the cave tradition in eastern India, Andhra Pradesh and Odisha. There were several cave traditions found in eastern India, especially in the coastal area of Odisha and Andhra Pradesh. But the most important is Guntapale in Iluru district. Let us see the features of this caves. The first image is from Guntapale. Caves are on hills along with structured monasteries. Unique site. It is a unique site as in Guntapale we find stupa, vihara and caves all at the same place. We do not find this combination in any other place. The Chaitya cave is circular, stupa in circular hall and Chaitya arc at entrance. See this entrance is decorated with the form of upsidal vault of Chaitya arc and the entire cave is in circular form. The Vihara cave is small in dimension and with rectangular vaulted roof. The another site is Anakapalli in Visakhapatnam. It is important because it is the biggest rock cut stupa on the hillock. So if it is asked that which is the biggest rock cut stupa in India, it is Anakapalli near Visakhapatnam. The third important caves is in Udaygiri, Khandagiri caves in Odisha. The caves are scattered and have inscriptions of Kharavela kings. Caves were meant for Jain monks. So numerous single cell excavations are found. These single cells were used by monks for their residence. Big caves include cave with pillared veranda with cells at the back. Upper part of cells were decorated with Chaitya arcs. See the second and third image is from Udaygiri Khandagiri. We can see in the third image how the decoration is the upper part of the cell is decorated with Chaitya arcs and the veranda in second image we can see the pillared veranda. So with this we have come to an end of this chapter. It is a bulky chapter but it is very important from the point of view of prelims because there are so many information which can be useful in framing statements. So since it is an important chapter, please go through this video and if you get time, see the last pages of this chapter in NCERT where few images and their descriptions are given. So just go through them once. It may be useful for eliminating the option in the exam. So I hope you like this video. If you like this video, then please subscribe to this channel because we get motivated when we get more subscribers and it motivates us to make the subsequent videos. So thank you so much.